The person who's commissioning the art can say, well, I want it to look a little more ape-like or a little more human-like. They can make it look however they want. Any artist can tell you that. Jack Coazzo studied the Neanderthals very carefully. He went and studied the originals. He brought an X-ray machine with him. He's a dentist, studied 32 years. He studied the growth of the human face as an orthodontist. You know, when you put braces on a kid who's 12 years old, it'd be nice to know what his face is going to look like when he's 40 to make sure the teeth still work. You don't want to arrange them so they look good when he's 12 and look bad when he's 40, right? So he studied all the original Neanderthals, the actual ones. He said, folks, the Neanderthals are nothing but old people with diseases. See, before the flood, they lived to be over 900. After the flood, they still lived to be 400 years old. And then 200, and then 100. Well, the bones of your face never stop growing. Coazzo's got an excellent book on that and videotapes on this topic. The bones of your eyebrow ridge grow all your life. You don't notice it till you get to be 70 or 80 or 90 or 100 years old, but they start to stick out. A person that lived to be 200 or 300 would have big eyebrow ridges. And the back of the head would elongate because of the muscles always pulling your head back. That's where they attach. So the Neanderthals were nothing but perfectly normal humans who were living to be 200 or 300 years old. They're not missing links. Or you can get the book Buried Alive. You can get it from our website or on our catalog back there. Cro-Magnon man was perfectly normal in every respect. So why do they call that a missing link? You put a suit and tie on him, walk him down the street, and nobody would look twice. They've got one in your textbooks now called Australopithecus africanus. That was proven wrong in 1973. It's not a missing link whatsoever. You picking up the sound there, Robin? Okay. Had to edit that up. 1973, Australopithecus was proven it can't be a missing link. They've got one in your textbooks now called Australopithecus afarensis, better known as Lucy. How many have ever heard of Lucy before? Donald Johanson found Lucy, Hadar Valley, Ethiopia, 1973. He went there on a grant to look for missing links. Somebody gave him some money and said, go to Africa and find some missing links. 2 weeks before his grant money ran out, he discovered Lucy. He was highly motivated to find something, or he wouldn't renew his grant. Quite a long, interesting story about that. He's certainly not an unbiased observer in this situation. He said Lucy was a missing link. Actually, what he found was 40% of a skeleton that put together and alive would have been about 3 feet tall. Obviously a chimpanzee or monkey type animal. He put the skull together. Actually, the bones of the skull were so thoroughly crushed they could not tell anything about what the skull looked like. But in your textbooks, kids, they're going to show you a half-human, half-ape skull. Part of the propaganda machine they've got going. He said the knee joint is proof Lucy could walk upright. Actually, the knee joint that was labeled Lucy's knee in National Geographic was the one found 1.5 miles away from Lucy, 200 feet deeper in the strata. If that's Lucy's knee, I want to know how fast the train was going that hit that chimpanzee. Tom Willis has a great article about the Lucy's knee joint. Go to the website CSAMA, Creation Science Association of Mid-America.org, and get a whole lot more on Lucy's knee joint. But he said the femur was angled. Now that's a fact, okay? An ape has a straight leg. The lower leg and upper leg are in a straight line. A human leg is not straight. It goes from your foot to your knee and then angles off to the side to your hip, because your hips are wider than your knees. And Lucy's knee was angled. And Donald said, see, that proves she's becoming a human. No, Donald, any monkey with tree climbing capability, tree climbing monkeys have angled femurs. So an angled femur does not prove it's becoming a human. Donald Johanson said the bones of Lucy's knee are slightly bigger than a regular ape. So the bones of a Clydesdale are slightly bigger than a regular horse. That doesn't prove it's becoming a truck. All he found was a heavy-duty chimpanzee, that's all. And there are big horses and little horses today, folks. The St. Louis Zoo put human feet on their Lucy display. Not one single foot bone was found. Every other Australopithecine that has been found, and several have been found, all of them had curled toes. They call them a knuckle walker. You know, chimpanzees don't walk flat on their feet. They walk on their knuckles, because their foot's designed like your hand for grabbing a tree branch. And so they curl their toes under. They call them knuckle walkers. One of the professors in Washington University in St. Louis, where the St. Louis Zoo has this display up, he said this statue is a complete misrepresentation. I like to use simple words. They spoke with great plainness of speech, the Bible says. I think it's a lie is a better word there. The zoo director said, zoo officials have no plans to knuckle under. Ha ha, real punny. He said, we cannot be updating every exhibit based on every new piece of evidence. We look at the overall exhibit and the impression it creates. We think the overall impression this exhibit creates is correct. Well now, Bruce, do you mean you would lie to kids that come through your zoo just to give an impression across that you've got evidence for evolution? Yes, they would, and they do. Lucy is not a missing link. In Africa, in some ash, layer of hardened volcanic ash, they found perfectly normal human footprints. Perfectly normal human. But the ash had already been dated at 3.75 million years old. They said, well, it can't be human. Russell Tuttle, University of Chicago, studied 70 people that go barefoot all their life. They never wear shoes. He looked at their footprints that they left in the ash and in the mud. He tried them in all sorts of things. And he said the footprints of these people alive today are exactly like the ones found in the ash in Laetoli. Then he said, if the footprints were not known to be so old, we would readily conclude that they were made by a member of our own genus. In other words, if we didn't know better, we'd think they were human. You know, folks, if you find normal human footprints in the ash, what should you conclude? A human walked there. I don't have a problem with that. And National Geographic, Mary Leakey said the form of his foot was exactly the same as ours. Weight-bearing pressure patterns in the prints resemble human ones. Footprints so very much like our own. Well, maybe a human made them. But see, it's too old. This is where an example where the evolutionary theory is a hindrance to common sense research. And then in National Geographic, they put dark-skinned, ape-like creatures on top of these footprints. Not one single bone was found. Now, if you found normal human footprints in the ash, why would you put a half-man, half-monkey creature on top? This is for propaganda value, folks. This is not science. And why did they add the toe separation? They did that on purpose, the artist did, to make it look a little more ape-like. See, humans have your toe, your big toe lined up with the rest of your toes. Apes have their big toe sticking off to the side. They can grab a tree branch with their foot, with their big toe on one side, other toes on the other side. You can't do that. If you'd like to practice, I suggest you start with a low branch to try it on, okay? Because it's going to be hard. Well, in National Geographic, they put an article about 4 million years of bipedalism, walking on two legs. They show all the missing links, but look what they did with the feet. They made them all look human. This is a lie, folks. This is propaganda. And if you're spending your money on National Geographic, I recommend you quit. Give it to a missionary instead. Okay? The Australopithecines are more different, according to Charles Oxnard, who studied them for 16 years. He said they're more different than African apes and humans in most features than the latter are from each other. They can't be a missing link. There could be some Australopithecines still alive. Upright walking monkey down in Sumatra, down near Vietnam. Peking man was in the textbooks for years as evidence for evolution. All evidence disappeared during World War II. But they found in this cave a bunch of monkey skulls that were smashed and a bunch of human tools. Somebody said, wow, look at this. These monkeys are learning to make tools. Oh, and they're practicing on their head. Yeah. Oh, that one works good. Yeah. Duh. No. In some cultures, they like to eat monkey brains. You know, have you seen Indiana Jones? They also found 10 human remains in the same cave. They didn't tell you about that, though. Peking man was a place where people would go to have a feast and eat monkey brains, is my theory. Australopithecine is not a missing link. Homo erectus is in the textbooks as evidence. It used to be called Java man, originally called Pithecanthropus erectus. Now it's called Homo erectus. The evolutionists said it's 500,000 years old. It was found by a Dutch anatomist who believed in evolution and had gone to look for missing links. He hired a bunch of convicts to go out and find him some bones. He said, you guys go out in the woods and find me some bones. We've got to find some missing links. He has no idea where they came from. These convicts would bring him back bones, and he would put, oh, that's part human, part ape. He was looking desperately to prove the evolution theory. Dr. Dubois had gone to Java to look for missing links. He took these convicts out there, and they came back with all kinds of bones. He took a human, 3 human teeth, a human thigh bone, and an ape skull cap, and put them all together and said he found the missing link. He hid the fact that he found 2 normal human skulls in the same area. He put them under his bed, under the floorboards. Kind of like Edgar Allan Poe, you know, Telltale Heart? Oh, no, this was Telltale Head. So he lied, all right? There's not enough evidence from fossils to answer when, where, and how Homo sapiens emerged. There's no evidence for human evolution. This guy says, fossil evidence of human evolution is fragmented.